I have a new theory for you guys today. I don't know, these things just keep coming to my head. Anyways, I think Rhys's mom was a witch. Hear me out. Feyre's engagement ring that she had to get from the Weavers had a 6-pointed star on the top of it. An opaque 6-pointed star. We know that Sarah J. Maas is Jewish and heavily puts religious stuff in the books. A 6-pointed star is a spiritual symbol to summon spirits. So, if his mom is dead, does the ring summon her spirit at some point? But also, his mom said that when he wore it in the past, she used to tell him that, like, if he's wearing it, she would always be with him. So I think that she knew what was going to happen because she was a seer. I think she knew everything that was going to happen and that she was going to die, and she bound her soul to the ring. If she's truly dead. Also, I think Rhys's ability to see Feyre's hands as a human were actually visions and not just a dream or the bond. We know that his mother had at the very least foresaw Feyre because she made her dresses. She was cryptic about how the person who would survive getting the ring from the Weaver would survive the marriage, which means she knew about the Illyrian pregnancy. So yeah, I do definitely think she was some sort of seer and a witch, like Elaine. Which kind of brings me back to ACOTAR. I mean, obviously she knew Feyre was going to be Rhys's mate. But there had to be something that connected her to Feyre, just like something connected Rhys to Feyre. I don't think it was just the bond. I think it was their Fey ancestry, and I think it's going to go back to the Fey warrior whose blood runs through the Archeron bloodline. If you go back to ACOTAR for a minute, it says, it's like when Feyre's mentioning, like, that weird guy. The male would carve these things against fairy harm in exchange for one of his wood carvings, the father's. There was so little that my father was ever able to do for us that I hadn't possessed the heart to tell him the engravings were useless and undoubtedly fake. Mortals did not possess magic, didn't possess any of the superior strength and speed of the fairies or high fae. The man, claiming some high fae blood in his ancestry, had just carved the whirls and swirls and runes around the door and windows, muttered a few nonsense words, and ambled on his way. I yanked open the wooden door, the frozen iron handle biting my skin like an asp. Heat and light blinded me as I slipped inside. Feyre, Elaine's soft gasp scraped past my ears, and I blinked back the brightness of the fire to find my second eldest sister before me. Feyre was already Fae. I read all of that, and I was like, Feyre got zapped with the iron after that male drew, like, the whirls and swirls and runes on the doorway, right? So who actually was that male? I don't think it was Rhys, just because he was too caught up with warming Amarantha's bed and all of that. I'm wondering if... I don't think it would have been Lucian, though, because he seemed like he didn't like her for some reason. But literally any of them could have glamored themselves to look like a human in order to, like, protect this half-fae girl that they knew of in the mortal lands. And it's not connecting in my head right now, but I'm sure that it will at some point in the near future. I just got off of work, so I'm tired, but it had to have been somebody we know, and it had to have been somebody that knew about Feyre. But there's really no other guy that knows much about it than Rhys. I literally finished part 3, and then it kind of sort of snapped in my head right when I said, oh, I'm too tired. Anyways, what I think Rhys knew that by giving Feyre a drop of the High Lord's powers, she would come back alive again. Because as we see, when the High Lords gave Rhys power to resurrect him, it worked. And I forget who it was that explained it. I don't think it was Tamlin. maybe Helion. But someone is like, oh, like it doesn't work that way. And she's like, you better try anyway. And then she asks Rhys after the fact, she's like, so does that mean you have a drop of all the High Lord's powers? And he said, no, because, like, since I'm already a High Lord, their power just, like, helped bring me back, but I don't have, like, the powers like you do. I think that he knew by her being half Fae, she would be able to be resurrected, but because she was also half human, she would have gotten a drop from all of the High Lords. And, not for nothing, but Miriam, Dracon's mate, was half Fae. She was brought back with the harp from the Dread Trove, but she also shares Dracon's powers like Feyre shares Rhys's. Last part. But my point is, this is just one more weird thing that makes me believe that Rhys is the ultimate villain. Because if all of this is true, and he was glamored as that man who knew Feyre was his mate even when she was human, and went to try to, like, protect her, and used iron to make sure that it was her on their door handle, and he's just been playing this naive, like, oh, I have no idea kind of person this whole time. What the fuck? Especially if he got some seer power from his mother, which we know from his visions of Feyre and her hands. He had to have known that was her. And what if he was just pulling the strings this whole time? We know that Amarantha let him out from under the mountain sometimes. But what if he was all these random people that Feyre met in the human lands glamored? Like the mercenary, the guy that drew the worlds and everything. What if he set it up for Feyre to be the one to kill Andras, fall in love with Tamlin, and he was pulling the strings of their downfall all along?